So I welcome you all to this session, which you can see it's titled Islamic Civilization versus Western Civilization. In the sense that this topic conceptually is slightly difficult and we are going to try and deal with it. What adds to the difficulty is that I'll be standing and presenting it for a good 1.5 hours. So inshallah, may Allah help me with that. Of course, I'll try and take a break in between if I need. Okay, so where do I begin? I begin somewhere else, and initially I don't want to speak about Islamic civilization and Western civilization. So we start here with this idea that we live in this thing called the modern world. Okay, and you all know what modern world is. It's a reality around us, and no one can deny this fact that it is around us and it impacts us in very many different ways. It's there. And alaykum assalam. And I would say that the audience I'm speaking to those people who are attending here physically, and also my audience which is listening to me online, modern world impacts you more than other people. What do I mean? I mean because the language I'm speaking and I'm delivering this presentation is English, right? So I'm speaking to you in English. And English is the most important language of the modern world. And because you all understand English and you're in touch with a lot of content that is delivered in English language, you probably are more in touch with the modern world than others. I think you wouldn't deny that. There's a lot of things in the modern world that you have a direct connection with it. But the question we have is, what is the modern world? Now, to make things worse for all of you, I'm going to open up this question. So this one question, right, that what is modern world? I'm going to open up this question and change into probably 20, 30 questions. Okay, so tie your seatbelts and be ready for these 20, 30 questions that are going to appear on screen one by one. So when we speak about the modern world, there are so many questions that come about. So let me begin here. What is the modern world? Does it have a single reality, or is it just a name we have given? So there are so many random things going out there. We just clubbed them together and decided to call it the modern world, and it doesn't really have a single unity and reality. Which one is the case? Where is the modern world? Is it few countries? Is it the entire world today? What about your country of residence? I don't know which countries you belong to, but I can imagine that you'd be from very many different countries. India, Pakistan, Western countries as they are referred to. So my question is this: where is the modern world? Where do you locate it on the map? Next set of questions. What is inside the modern world? What does it consist of? What are the parts of the modern world? Let's go ahead. Now we come to some moral judgments about the modern world. So there are many questions here. Is the modern world good? Is the modern world bad? Some of it is good, some of it is bad. What's your overall judgment about the modern world? Okay, these are the questions that are there. And the last question is, how did the world become modern? It didn't just pop from nowhere and turn into modern world, right? It has a background, it has a history. Something happened somewhere, some time ago, that the world looks the way it is today. So that's a question, that where does it come from? Okay. Do my questions end here? No. I'm going to continue with more questions, and some of them are personal in nature. So I apologize before asking these questions. It's not good to ask people personal questions. So what are these questions? What is my relationship with the modern world? Am I affected by the modern world? How did it affect me? And then each of these can be turned into sub-questions. What is my current relationship with the modern world? Can you explain it to me in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes? It's a question. What is the ideal and correct relationship that I should have with the modern world? Because to assume that my current relationship with the modern world is the ideal probably is a bit thinking good about our own selves. I think maybe I need to review my relationship with the modern world. Of course, right now I'm just putting forward these questions. We have no idea what modern world is. And one of the things that we want to do in this session, although very briefly, is to connect this idea of the modern world to this idea of civilization. So I'm going to do that, so that's coming. Am I affected? Has the modern world shaped me, my personality? How much? Okay. Am I modern or traditional? These are questions, right? Okay. How much has been the effect? Next set of questions is, how did it affect me? Did it have a very clear effect on me, or the effect had been very subtle? What are the different ways and channels through which the modern world affects me? Okay, now when I'm saying it affects me, I'm not only talking about negative effect. So I'm not passing a value judgment. Generally, I'm asking, what have I taken from the modern world? It's a valid question, right? I mean, you can't punish someone for asking questions. So I'm just asking questions. So is the effect good or bad? That's another question you need to ask. Okay. These are enough questions? No, there are more questions that we need to ask ourselves. And I'm sorry for that. I'm beginning with so many questions. So now we go to some big issues. So far it was the modern world and me. But now if we raise the scale and ask, okay, what is the relationship between Islam and the modern world? What is the relevance of Islam in the modern world? How do we analyze certain current events? And I'm going to give some examples. And challenges we face as Muslims in the modern world. And does Islam have anything at all to contribute to the modern world or not? Okay. I know we all as Muslims and practicing Muslims, alhamdulillah, we all love that everything is Islamic, right? So if you ask me, is this wall Islamic? My heart would say that, yeah, I like even the walls and the doors and everything to be Islamic. But my liking doesn't change the reality. We'll have to actually see what's Islam's relevance in the modern world. Just liking something to happen doesn't change the reality. So very many questions. Relationship between Islam and the modern world. They have nothing to do with each other. They're completely in line with each other. They're completely contradictory with each other. Which of this is correct? Relevance of Islam in today's world. Is Islam even relevant in today's world beyond just a personal relationship with God? So that no one denies, right? Religion has a certain place in the modern world. And that is your connection with Allah inside your house. Okay, so but out in the society, out in the modern world, does Islam have any relevance or no? It's you keep it between yourself and your God. Don't bring Islam in the society. Is that the case? How do we look at it? Hasn't the world changed and religion has lost its significance? How do we answer these questions? How do we analyze some of the current events? Because this particular event has been organized keeping in view that after a certain number of days, we have the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. Okay? It was an important event in the recent history. So the question is, how do you fit this idea of Islamic Republic in the modern world? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense? And now you come to some very drastic ideas you might have heard sometimes with taxi drivers or, I don't know, people around you. Things like, the revolution has failed. 40 years, they tried. They had good intentions. But, okay, now you'll hear very drastic things also. Some people might say this, that I wish we had never done this revolution. We wish Shah's times were better, and they'll give you examples of that. Okay? Let me give you one example, a rather interesting one. And that is that, you know how bad is the situation? You have any idea what's going on in the society, in Iran, in Islamic Republic? It's a funny example, but it shows the reality. More than 10 years ago, when I came here as a Hausa student, you know how much did one falafel cost? Can you guess? One falafel. How much? Oh, that's a bit, okay. Okay, so falafel in those good old days cost 100 tuman. I mean, tak tuman, not 100,000. You have to say it, otherwise people misunderstand. So falafel, 10 years ago roughly, would cost 100 tuman, just 100 tuman. 1/10 of 1,000 tuman. You give 1,000 tuman, you could buy 10 falafel. Your whole family can eat, your neighbors can eat. Now, after 10 years, falafel costs at least 5,000 tuman, 50 times price increase. Isn't that crazy? So all these questions and doubts about the current realities, and this was just an example to lighten the mood, but to be very serious, the economic situation out there is not very good. People are suffering. Their buying power has reduced. All these things, where do you fit it in your heart? Is it good? Is it bad? What's happening? The revolution has failed. If it has failed, let's go back to our countries. What do? We need to be able to answer these questions. And many, many questions. I mean, I want to just keep asking questions. My time will finish just asking these questions. What challenges does the modern world throw in front of us? How do we deal with these challenges as individuals and as communities? And it's the last question, and a rather important one, is that sometimes we as Muslims, when we ask our relationship with the modern world, we're always thinking about defense. So basically, the modern world is there to attack us, eat us up, and now I need to have my defenses on so that I don't take that negative influence from the modern world. And we just stop at that. Sometimes we should ask this question, that does Islam have even anything to offer to the modern world? Can Islam make a positive contribution in the modern world? If yes, how? Where is it? Show me. Okay. So many questions. Why did I bring these questions? To just put across this idea that all these questions, if you don't have a satisfactory answer, even a brief one, which you can justify to others or to even your own self, forget about others, then if you don't have these answers ready, then you're going to face a lot of challenges dealing with the modern world. And this is our destiny, right? That Allah has ordained that we take our journey to Allah through this modern world. Okay. This wasn't in my hands when I was born or where I was born. So for example, I would have loved to be born in the time of, for example, Amirul Mu'minin. Okay. We all wish these things, right? We would have loved to be born at the time of Imam al-Hussein. But Allah's destiny so desired that we be born in this day and age. So our journey to Allah has to pass through this reality. It's out there. So we need to understand it. And there are challenges there that the modern world brings to us. Again, I won't go into detail. In the intellectual challenges, it puts in front of you so many questions that you have to answer. You can't run away. Questions about God, questions about society, question about reality of the human being. All these questions are there. And they come to us through different mediums. So we need to have some readiness. And beyond that, we have a responsibility towards others. We need to help others, right? And believe me, I don't know which societies you come from, but at least the friends I know who are from the core of the modern world, the societies which the modern world started from there, people are going through a hard time. I mean, raising children in those societies is becoming very challenging, to the extent that people are saying that let's just run away from there and find a secluded place somewhere in the world and save ourselves. It's coming with a lot of force and pressure. I don't know how much you're aware of what's happening, different issues that are out there. So it's a challenging world. We need to help ourselves and we need to help others. So but just understanding the modern world, and let me say this here, I wanted to say in the beginning, I forgot, and that is that this one session, one seminar is not an attempt to understand all of this. Why? Because it's not possible. Like, I can't explain to you, or no one can explain to you what modern world is, and I'm connecting it to the idea of a civilization very soon. In one session, it needs time. So we are barely going to scratch the surface. I'm just going to introduce this idea of looking at the modern world as a civilization. What does it mean? And inshallah, we would get other opportunities to pursue these discussions. I'm not saying that this is the most important discussion, and if you do this, you're sorted for your life. No, I'm not saying that. We all need to study different topics based on our needs, based on the place we are situated in our life. For example, I have children, I need to know how to do their Islamic tarbiyah. It's a need, I need to go and learn. But these kind of topics, although very boring for many, okay, it's a boring topic, right? Who wants to talk about civilization? I mean, that's the last thing you would be bothered about. There are many things in life to deal with. So it's not a topic that's discussed a lot, but if we give a little bit of time, it has a lot of impact. It changes the perspective of how we look at different things. But understanding the modern world is not enough. We need to complement that with increasing our understanding. Today, we won't be touching on this side of looking at Islam as a civilization, because we won't have time, but I'll point out something. So I'll just mention one hadith. It's good to have words of A'imma in the presentations. It brings a lot of barakat. Otherwise, just me talking, it doesn't have much value. It's the words that they have taught us that gives a lot of value. So this is a narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Please recite a salawat. Okay. So it's addressing all of us. So we know when the Imams would address, they wouldn't just address the person or the people who are present there. So generally they would, in many cases, they would address the Shia from that time to the Day of Judgment. So this is for us. So he says, alaykum bittafakkuh fi dinillah. I advise you, I enjoin you, I command you to gain deep understanding of Islam, of Allah's religion. Okay. Why? I don't have time. That's the question. I don't have time to learn Islam, go into those depths of Islam, study, read more, know about. No, I know my basic ahkam, I know the good akhlaq that Islam tells me, and the third thing is, I know my basic aqaid. Okay, 5 pillars of religion, I know them well, and I'm done in terms of my knowledge of religion. No, Imam is saying, no, wait, you need to have tafakkuh, means a deeper understanding of religion. Why? Then he says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَعْرَابًا. Don't be like those, I'm sorry to use the word, those Jahil Arabs. Arab is those people who are ignorant. What they were ignorant of? They're ignorant of the reality of religion. Okay. What happens if I'm an Arabi? So Imam says, فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ لَمْ يَتَفَكَّهْ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ لَمْ يَنْظُرِ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Whoever does not acquire a deep understanding of the religion, Allah will not look at him on the Day of Judgment. وَلَمْ يُزَكِّي لَهُ عَمَلًا. His actions will not be purified on the Day of Judgment. Okay. What does this say? It says that, because we know this, right, that hereafter is a reflection of how I live in this world. Okay, so this narration is telling me that if I don't have a good understanding of my own religion, I won't be able to pass through my life successfully. It's a risky thing to do, right? Just take a big risk and just dive into something which has a lot of challenges without being prepared. So we need to be prepared. Okay. So the thing that we are going to do is that very briefly, in this very little time I have, I need to keep checking my time. Okay, so it passes really fast for me. Okay, so if we were to answer this question that, okay, so we have two things. We have the modern world in which we live, and we don't know what it is. We're going to talk about it, what it is. And we know that the challenges it brings to us, the solution kind of lies in Islam. At least we as Muslims believe that, right? That Islam is the way that's going to teach us in any day and age to how to live successfully. And we need to learn both of these things. So if I were to ask you that what is the modern world, or what is Islam and I would tell you that answer to me in one word. I mean, don't explain it, because if you explain, then it becomes like a very long thing. The answer to this question would be that both are a civilization. Okay. That's fantastic, right? Okay. But what is a civilization? That's the question. So I'm making a claim here. I'm saying that if you want to understand the modern world correctly, completely, make sense out of so many different things going around us, and answer so many different questions, we need to look at the modern world as a civilization. And also, in order to deal with it and find the right answers to so many challenges, intellectual and practical, we need to even look at Islam as a civilization. Okay, so, but what is a civilization? So what we are going to do is, we are going to take, and from here on the discussion might become slightly, I'm trying to avoid technical words and terms, but expect the discussion might become slightly complicated from now on. So what we are going to do is, we are going to try and understand modern world as a civilization using a 5-layered framework. Okay, I'm using heavy words, so the lecture sounds very academic. Okay, so that's what you can do, right? If you want to make your lecture very academic, use those heavy technical words. Everyone feels that, oh wow, it's like this person knows so much. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have any choice. So what I'm trying to do is that in order to analyze things, to answer these questions which I posed, we need to have a conceptual framework. We need to have some way of organizing and systematically understanding realities which are out there. And one of those things that we need to understand is this idea of a civilization. And what is a civilization? I'm going to try and explain to you in this 5-layer idea or approach. Okay. Don't be scared, it's not something very fancy. When I show you, you'll say, oh, this we knew from before, probably. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the time I have, so modern world is what you can call it, the modern civilization, the Western civilization. Names are different. It's pointing to one reality. Why is it called the Western civilization? There's reasons for it. There have been 2-3 different reasons that have been mentioned, that this modern civilization, modern world, why is it called Western civilization? The idea of West, there are different reasons for it. One of the reasons is that because its starting point was Western Europe. I mean, this civilization, I mentioned, right? Civilizations don't pop from nowhere. I mean, they have a history. They have a starting point, they have initial stages, they grow, they reach maturity, and those civilizations which are, I will come to that point, not the true civilization, they would eventually even collapse. So they grow, they have a life, if you want to call it. So this civilization started in Western Europe. So that's why it's called Western civilization. This is one reason. The other reason they gave is that because with the coming of this civilization, this idea of a West and a East came into picture. A certain part of the world was classified as the West, and there's this divide between the West and the East, that you can see it in the form of the divide between the modern and the traditional, and in so many different places. But that's not a discussion, it's just a question of why these names have come. So now what we are going to do in the remainder part of the discussion we have today is that I'm going to present to you this framework of a civilization, and then I'm going to apply it to the modern world and try to convince you that modern world is in fact a civilization which has these many things. And in the end, I'll just say that on the side of this, Islam also is a civilization, but I won't get time to go into the details of that. I'll just I'll point to brief things. And as I mentioned, I don't want to disappoint the organizers, but in 1 hour, you can't do this topic. And I told them that usually when this topic is done, you need, okay, I shouldn't use big numbers. So we do it in 6 hours to give you a very, very, very brief introduction of all these different things. What is Islamic civilization? What is Western civilization? A package. But I said that let me summarize what I have and try to present something, and inshallah with the hope that you people will later pursue these topics yourself. Yes? Okay. So that's a very good question. I'll just very briefly answer here. When we'll see what a civilization is, I hope that thing will become more clear. So civilization is the largest, very big social unit such that societies are parts of a civilization. It's the biggest possible social unit you can imagine. It's huge. It's the biggest, and that's why I'm claiming that with this framework you can analyze everything. It's a big claim. So if you see something in history, you can analyze using this framework. If you see something happening today, you can analyze using this framework. You can analyze different societies using this framework. So societies is a smaller part within a civilization. In fact, many different societies can come together and form a civilization. Let me go a step further. You can even say that you can have a global civilization spanning the entire world and all different societies that are there. Although this itself is a discussion that how do you differentiate between societies? Where does one society end and another starts? But again, that's not a discussion that we would go. But generally, this would be the answer, that society is a smaller unit, civilization is something much bigger than that. Inshallah, we'll try and explain. So what are these 5 layers of a civilization? So let me first show them to you, very briefly explain them to you in the context of the modern world. And then I'll end, and we'll keep a bit of time at the end if there are any question and answers, and also point to the way forward, that this is not the end. This is just a very brief introduction to this topic. So a civilization has these 5 things in it, and there's a reason why this has been drawn in the form of concentric circles. There's a reason. Okay. Every civilization has a worldview. Every civilization has values. Every civilization has knowledge it produces, and by knowledge I mean the academic studies and the academic output. Okay, I'll explain this, what I mean by this, because worldview is also a knowledge. But when I say knowledge in a civilization, I mean what they produce as their sciences, as their academic work. I'll explain this. Civilization has something called social systems, and a civilization, the last layer and the outermost layer of a civilization is the products and attractions of that civilizations. And if you want to add, you can say even repulsions. Civilizations can produce things that can repel others, that makes you disgusted. So it also has attractions, but right now I'm just focusing on one side of the story. Okay, so I'm going to explain these one by one very briefly, so we get an idea of what the modern world is and why am I saying it's a civilization. And there's this idea of Islam also being a civilization. Okay. So inshallah I'll come to that. So basically we'll also claim that Islam also has all of this. But do we really have all of this that is necessary to make a civilization? It's a question that we need to discuss more and talk about more. So I'm going to do this, that I'm going to mention this. So worldview of the modern world or the Western civilization. So this session of ours is more like understanding Western civilization more than Islamic civilization, because I had to choose between one of these two. And I thought that the modern world and how it is around us, it's more easy to understand. Why? Because it's tangible. You'll see it's all around us. It's more easy to understand this concept of civilization when it's used in the context of the modern world, of the Western world. Okay. So what is worldview of a civilization? So all of these words have been carefully chosen. So it's a definition. So worldview is a certain way of looking at the world and fundamental questions that human beings have. Okay. So we as human beings, and we as human societies, or we as mankind as a whole, have certain fundamental questions that we always ask ourselves. Okay. So let me give you a few examples. Does God exist or not? It's a question, right? I mean, I'm sure all of you have thought about it at some point in your life. It automatically happens. Why and how, it's a different story. But most people, they end up thinking about these fundamental questions. Does God exist? Is there life after death? Who am I? What is my reality? What am I doing here? Do I have a purpose in life or not? What do I think about the society? It's just individuals put together. What's the reality of the society? I'm just giving examples. So every civilization gives answers to these questions, and that forms their worldview. I mean, it's clear, like worldview, the way they look at the world. It's how you view the world. Okay. So let me tell you here that modern world, the Western civilization, the modern civilization has a certain worldview. Okay. And it's not something hidden. They'll say it very clearly that, look, this is what we believe. It's to do with your belief also in some ways. Okay. Again, I'm not going to explain all of this, but I would really, really urge you, all of you, to pursue these discussions, that what do these things mean. So if you ask them, what do you think about God? Oh, modern world, what is your view about God? It's going to tell you, either I'm an atheist or an agnostic, or I believe in a personal God. It's usually between these two. Okay, let me mention a small disclaimer here, that when we are talking about these kind of complex social things, when I say modern world believes in this, don't think every single person. No, we talk about the dominant trend. Don't get me wrong. You say that, we are told that the modern world believes in a personal God. It doesn't believe in a God that can come in the society. No, there are Muslims there living. No, I'm not talking about individuals. I'm saying the general trend in that civilization. Usually what people believe. Where is the current flowing? There can be people flowing against the current in every civilization. I mean, it's a huge thing. Modern world today would believe in these things. Okay? And it's not something that's difficult to deny. I mean, you would have seen this happening around you. Usually people say, I'm an atheist. Or they say, I don't know if God exists or not, and I don't care anyways. Like, so that's agnostic. Like, it's like, I don't care. I have my life to live. Or there's a good number of believers in God also in the modern world, but they have a certain idea about God, a rather personal God they believe in. Okay, anyways, the story is long. I'm giving examples. All of these need explanation. I would say go please study these topics because you'll need them. Okay, what does it think about the metaphysical realities? The dominant trend, we'll call it materialism. Okay, so they would say that beyond this material life, we don't know, maybe doesn't make sense, we die and that's the end. So basically the material world is the reality, okay, and there's nothing beyond. So this would be their view. What is their view about the reality of the human being? If you want to summarize it, you'd call it, there's this certain idea called humanism. Okay? Although humanism doesn't just come here, you can bring it in values as well. Okay? Don't do ishkal later that, oh, you mentioned humanism comes here, but no, it has, no, please, we are not discussing humanism here. It has different dimensions, humanism. One dimension of that is this idea that, look, I'm here, my reality is these immediate pleasures and things that I can sense and gain, and that's it. Is there God? Do I have a higher purpose? Is there life after death? Is there heaven, hellfire? I don't care. I don't think so. It's there. It's not there. Doesn't make sense. These kind of ideas. We'll summarize it in giving a central praise to the human being in the creation, and of course God is not there. I mean, that's clear. Okay, very important question for all of you to pursue. What is the view of the modern world about the women? There are many, many questions that are there. What is her creational position? What is her position in the society? What is her position in the family? You can add a lot of questions. If you answer all these questions, that's your worldview about the reality of the women. They have answers to this, which I'll roughly call it feminism. Okay. So again, feminism is a part of their worldview, but it extends even beyond that. There are feminist values as well. So don't do ishkal later that feminism is a wide thing. A part of it is their view about the women. What's the reality of the woman? The idea of gender equality. In what sense? What do you mean by gender equality? All these ideas would be discussed in this, and they have views about this. What is their view about religions? They have a view about religion that they call it pluralism. Okay? So they say that we believe in pluralism. What does it mean? That doesn't matter which religion you follow. Like, it's all good, right? Be good at heart. And can I claim to be the right religion and be judgmental about other people and say you're on the wrong path? They wouldn't like it so much. Why? Because they don't believe in it. They say no, all religions. And there's a long story. You can study it, inshallah, in pluralism. So this would define some important elements of the worldview of the modern world. Okay. Why did I draw it as concentric circles starting from its inside out? Why? Because worldview forms the core of a civilization. It's the core. It's the innermost layer that drives a lot of things. If you dig into a civilization and you really want to get to that place where beyond that there's nothing, it's their worldview. A lot of things source from the worldview. And that's how we are as human beings, right? A lot of the things we do in our lives stem from our worldview. I mean, it completely changes my life. If I don't believe in God, I shouldn't be living like this. I shouldn't here be in coma, okay, for example. If I believe in God and so many other things, that brings me to Qom. Okay, makes a big impact. So worldview is very critical. It's that core and central element. But civilization has more. I think I should speed up a bit. With this speed, I won't finish. The idea was to give a very brief introduction. A civilization has something called values. Or the opposite of that, there are anti-values. Okay, these are not fancy terms. What do values mean? What that civilization likes, cherishes, enjoys, is attracted to. What are anti-values? These are those things which this civilization dislikes. They say, I don't want this. They push away certain things. That becomes anti-values. Let me give you a few examples to make it tangible in the context of the modern world. So, for example, individual freedom and choice is a very important value in the modern world. You would agree with me, right? They give a lot of, is it good or bad? I'm not judging the civilization right now, and we should do that at some point. Describe it fairly, say that, okay, this is how the Western civilization looks like, and then when you want to pass your moral judgment, we can pass that which part of it is good or bad. Right now, I'm not in a position to pass judgment about the Western civilization. I'm describing it for you, that look, this is a reality out there. So, material wealth is a very important value for them, that probably one of their paramount values, seeking, because that's what brings pleasure, right? And so this is a very important value in their civilization, in the Western civilization. Okay, they have negative values. For example, modest dressing, and by that I specifically mean hijab, is not seen as something good. Okay, so if you work in a Western civilization, okay, the core of it, where it's fully functional, okay, you can talk about where is that core, and you work with a chador out there, people, you'll get stares. Why? Because they're repulsing you. They don't like you, not you, but this modest dress. Okay, let me ask a question so it's not just a monologue. Why do you think it's a negative value? And it has a lot of impact, right? Recently, I think French government passed a law banning hijab in one more place. I forgot about it. I read it in the news. So it's banned in the universities some. They passed another law which was put forward by the right-wing politicians in France, and it was passed in the parliament. They banned hijab in sports for women. Okay. Why would someone ban this? They don't like it. That society is ready to pass such a law shows that they don't like it. And you can feel it. Why do you think? What's wrong? Okay, doesn't it go against the idea of individual freedom? Okay, I want to wear hijab. Who are you to tell me I shouldn't wear hijab? But still, it doesn't work so simply that, oh, individual freedom, so I'm okay. What do you think? Yes?
Maybe because the idea of modest dressing is tied to a religious worldview, and so if it's secular and pluralist, then...
Okay. So one probably the factor would be they think that these people are religious, and it's coming from their religious sentiments, and we are a secular society. They are scared. So France, it's become it's a debate there that Islam is invading our secular values. French secularism is going, it's dying, it's finishing. We need to take, so all of these becomes a reason, an excuse to pass these laws. So yes, one of the reasons would be this. Yes, anything else? Yes.
Maybe it's going against some of the other values that they have.
Okay, excellent. Which one, for example?
So it might be going against this like materialistic concept or like the reality that they have about like the metaphysical, what they believe in the world to be.
Yeah.
Feminism, all of these things is going against that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's an excellent point, that these values can be connected to each other very heavily. So one thing would be that they would see that, I mean, for example, excuse me to say this, like if men are free to enjoy and do what they like, why should women restrict themselves? Okay, it's stemming from their worldview. So this. Or for example, they would see wearing hijab as oppressive. Okay, so automatically this idea comes that, oh, these Muslim women, bichara, they're so oppressed. They have to stay in this veil thing. They have no rights. And based on our fitrat, we don't like oppression. We repulse it. So the problem is that they have this fitri feeling. They really feel bad for you. I mean, I'm saying that it's not always that they hate you, therefore they repulse hijab. No. They say that, bichara, these Muslim women, why they are so oppressed? Why don't they have any rights? And that has a long background to it, that why this feeling has been created. So I'm saying it's a complex thing that's out there. I just wanted to discuss it a bit. So you can safely say that it's not such a positive value out there, this kind of dressing. It's not welcomed, at least. The least would be that people will be neutral in the best possible scenario. Yes?
I don't know if this is not related, but why is it that we find with a lot of these Western countries, while they are pluralistic and secular, they also have strong ties to Christianity, and Christian symbols are not necessarily looked down upon as Christian.
Okay. Yeah. That's an excellent question. I wouldn't go into the answer, but this is true, but it will need a lot of explanation, is that Western world as a civilization is not always logical. It's not that there's a logical thing between all that they say. This is one of the inner contradictions. Okay. Or to defend them a bit, okay, because it's easy to say that, okay, they have internal contradictions. On one side they say this, but on the other side they contradict this. If I would want to defend them, I would say that no, what they do is between these conflicting values, they choose that which is the most important for them. So they are ready to sacrifice other values. So they'll say individual freedom, but they'll say, wait, there's limit to it. No, don't think individual freedom. We have other values which are more important for us. For those values, we might curtail and limit individual freedom. So these values have a certain relationship with each other, and sometimes they might prefer certain values over certain others. Okay? Now and it can even be slightly localized. For example, French society has a certain situation, so they would act in a certain manner. But what I'm trying to say, that all these societies are working in this bigger framework of the modern world or the Western civilization. They have a lot of common things. I don't want to go into a lot of details. More examples. LGBT issue is becoming one of very important values there. Okay. You want to see if something is an issue related to value, just go and check how much emotion it provokes. If an issue is a matter of hot debate and people are ready to give their lives for it, in that society, they're ready to come on roads and fight for it, that shows it's an important value for them. Why? Because it's affecting their emotions, positively or negatively. And I'll give you one tangible example to just make it very clear for us, is that, for example, gender segregation is a negative value for them. They don't like this idea that in a gathering where there are men and women, you segregate men and women. Something which is very, like, as Muslims, it's like very obvious for us, like that I mean, the least we would say, what's wrong with that? It's fine, right? Like let's say this session had men attending and women attending. The most natural thing for us, the first thing that would come to our mind as Muslims is that, okay, one side men, one side women. If we need, maybe we'll put a partition, we'll ensure that everyone is comfortable, right? Okay. You think this idea is easily accepted in the modern world? I'll show you something which is quite interesting. Okay. Just to show you that in real life, how does it work? Okay. Now this is going to be tricky. Okay. Okay, my time is running out, but inshallah. Okay, so this is Reuters, so it's official. It's not fake news. I didn't make it up. I didn't fake the page as well. You can go and check it. Okay, it's December 13, 2013. What's happening? Something is happening in UK that the PM had to step in. David Cameron had to step in. Okay, it's a national issue. Okay, because otherwise David Cameron won't step in, right? If it's a small issue, why would David Cameron come and give a statement? Okay, what happened? Tell me here. Okay, let me read for you. The issue arose earlier this year after events involving an Islamic speaker at University College London and at Leicester University, if that's the right pronunciation. I don't care much. It's like, were staged with separate seating for men and women. Okay. That's fine, right? In a university, small event, probably 30, 40 people attending, Islamic speaker, Islamic topic, attendees are Muslims, they out of their own willingness and choice decide to sit separately. Is that bad? Like tell me fairly, is that bad? Yes. Debate intensified last month when guidance by Universities UK is an organization which represents 132 of the country's top academic centers, including Oxford and Cambridge, said voluntary separate seating for men and women may sometimes be appropriate if an external religious speaker requests it. Please, you can't get more, I mean, at least allow this, right? Everything is voluntary, no force, nothing. See the backlash. Over 9,000 people have signed a petition condemning Universities UK for the policy which they say endorses gender apartheid. It's an emotional issue. They won't tolerate it. Why? It's against their values. They won't like it. And you have no idea what the backlash was. David Cameron had to step in. His spokesman said that he doesn't believe that guest speakers should be allowed to address segregated audiences, and so he believes that Universities UK should urgently review its guidance, and Universities UK was forced to take back those guidelines. It's a pressure that was there. And I don't have time. I'll show you some other interesting things. If I can go to the next tab. Oh, I closed something. Okay, luck is not with you. I by mistake closed the tab. So basically there was another tab that I was going to show you which showed how strong were emotions there. I'll share the link with you. So for the same thing, there's an event held against this in front of the office of Universities UK, and there's a lady who gives a speech there, and you see the amount of anger she has, that how dare you do this in our universities. And she says, it's against our secular values. So I'm just giving examples that these values heavily stem from worldview. So these values are connected to the worldview, and these values deeply affect people's choices and how they act and how they build their society. Okay? So this is a very, very important aspect of any civilization. By the way, I wanted to, how much time do I have when I'm 20 minutes? Okay. Same. Okay, please recite a salawat. Okay, so this is the second layer of a civilization and modern world. So I'm giving you examples. But there's more to civilization than this. And the third part, okay, this was the example I wanted to give. There's a clip, but it's about homosexuality, that it's been a matter of last 100 years, 70 years, that from being an anti-value in their own societies, it's turned into a value. The change has been really fast. It's something to note. Okay. We come to the third layer of a civilization. Every civilization produces knowledge. It does academic work, it has universities, it has educational institutions that produce knowledge. Okay. Every civilization has. You go in the past, the civilization that they would write books, they would do research, they would open the frontiers of knowledge. Every civilization does that. And in this sense, modern world has been, the Western civilization has been quite successful. The amount of knowledge that this civilization has developed is unprecedented. It's uncomparable. They've done studies, right? So the graph goes like this. So you can say from 0 to 1600 AD. So amount of knowledge produced in the world. From 1600, okay, 17th century, which is the start of the modern world, the amount of academic output spikes. So it goes exponential. Okay. Why? They realized the importance of knowledge. Okay. As a civilization, they knew that if we want to reach our goals, if we want to promote our values, we need knowledge. Probably they're doing amal on this riwayat of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. It's possible, right? That Amirul Mu'mineen says something and they act on it. Okay? And they did so. So what's the narration? Amirul Mu'mineen says, Al-ilmu sultan. Knowledge is power. Man wajadahu sala bihi. If you have knowledge, you are in control. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْهُ سِيلَ عَلَيْهِ. If you don't have knowledge, others will take control of you. That's how it works. I mean, that's how things work. So they realize this, that knowledge is important. We need to work on knowledge. Okay. So what do we see in the knowledge of the modern world? A lot of things. So you see natural sciences. All of you have studied in school and everything, in universities. It's a big thing, right? Natural sciences, empirical sciences is a big thing in today's modern world. Physics, biology, medicine, engineering, so many different subfields. It's a whole world in itself. Massive, huge amount of academic work being done every single day. I mean, millions of students in universities across the modern world. Thousands of universities working day and night to produce knowledge. They work a lot on social sciences. It's not that they don't work. So you have all this. They have economics, you have political sciences, you have psychology, anthropology, sociology. You go in any university, you'll see that these things are there. There are other sciences as well that they develop. Mathematics, philosophy, literature, history. Okay. So combine all this. This is the knowledge of the modern world. But there's a question that I'm going to briefly answer, and that is that, wait, hold on. Knowledge is knowledge, right? Doesn't matter who produces it, right? I mean, Einstein came and said E equal to mc square, and the whole world was fascinated. Let's say a Muslim came and said the same thing. Would it make a difference? Would the formula change if a Muslim did it? No, right? I mean, yeah, please say no. Otherwise we'll be in trouble. If E is not equal to mc square, the whole world is going to collapse, please. So say yes. So say no. Okay. So this is a question. If knowledge is knowledge, doesn't matter who's produced it, why am I saying that this is the knowledge of the modern world? Why am I attaching it to the modern world? So I'm just going to very briefly, I don't have time to explain this. I would have loved to explain more. I'm going to show you 3 ways in which the modern world has also impacted knowledge. Positively or not, I'll leave the judgment for you to make. So I'll give you a simple example. So one of the things that this Western civilization did to knowledge is that it created excessive focus on natural sciences. Okay. That's what it has done. And there are statistics about it. Go and read. 80% of the academic work that happens in universities is related to natural sciences, the material world. And you can imagine, right, why? It's stemming from their worldview and their values. They give primacy to the material world. Okay? So you need to exploit and understand the material world so you can maximize pleasure. It makes perfect sense, right? Why would they go more after natural sciences? So it's logical for them based on their values and their worldview. Really, some of the things they do makes perfect sense in their framework. Okay? So what it has done, that forget about religion and religious sciences, that's out of picture anyways. even social sciences have been marginalized compared to natural sciences, to the extent that people have written papers on this, that, you know what, doing so much social science in universities, it's a small number, like 20%, it's useless. Why are we wasting our budget on these psychology? Okay, so there's an article, if I want, I'll share with you, saying that, look, natural sciences produce things for you, technology, gadgets. They're beneficial, they do something in their life. I'm going to sit in my room and discuss philosophy, discuss psychology. Okay. In Farsi, this whole Chekari is like, why are you wasting your time? He wrote that. He said, it's a waste of time and resources. Probably we shouldn't do so much social sciences. Just do how much you need to policy making and everything, because you need a bit of social sciences for policy making. But we don't need to focus. So this is what the modern world has done to knowledge as a whole. It's tipped the balance in the favor of natural sciences. Okay, what else it has done? It has thrown religious knowledge out of the window. Okay, so of course, I'm not saying that they don't discuss religion, but they discuss religion from a historical perspective, from a sociological perspective, for political reasons, for policy making. You should know this, or we all should know this, that after Islamic Revolution 1979, because this event is related to that in some ways, right? Because it's nearing the anniversary. After 1979, the amount of academic work that has happened about Shiaism is 100 times more than before 79, 90. Why? They saw that, oh, something happened. Things went out of our control. This was the strongest place where we had full control. And you know these things, right? That all of you know Nuzday Day. What's Nuzday Day? What happened? Why the event is remembered? I mean, please, you live in Iran. Don't tell me you don't know this. No, Nuzday Day, it's remembered for Qom. Every year, people of Qom have a meeting with the leader. Yeah, so it's an uprising of people of Qom. Why? Because there was a derogatory thing written about Imam Khomeini in one of the newspapers. 10 days before that, I think it was Jimmy Carter, American president, was here in Tehran, and he said that it's an island of stability. Iran is island of stability in a chaotic world around. So the Arab world was chaotic, saying this is the island. 10 days later, Iran is completely goes out of control because of the uprising of people of Qom. So I'm saying that we should at least know a bit about these events. So sorry, I forgot what I was speaking about. What did I bring? Yeah. So what it has done, the modern world, is that it has thrown religious knowledge out. What do I mean by religious knowledge? That looking at Quran and Hadith as a source of knowledge to solve our problems. They don't look at it. They see Quran as a historical entity. Have you, okay, if you know, please tell me. Do you know a university where they teach economics from the Holy Quran? Like real proper economics. If you find me, I'll be grateful. Tell me, I would be interested to find out. It doesn't exist. Doesn't make sense for them in their framework. Religious knowledge is history. It's a sociological reality. Okay, but I was making this point. For political reasons, they'll study religion, but not as a source of knowledge. It doesn't exist. It's not there. So that's a change, right? Okay, that is there. And the last thing, and probably this takes the most amount of time to explain, and I'm going to do in the least amount of time, and that is that, and this is very critical, is that natural science is fine, mathematics fine, it doesn't matter who does it. Social sciences are heavily based on values and the worldview. If that worldview and those values are not correct, be ready for disastrous theories in social science. And that's what we have been offered. I'll give you two examples very briefly. Okay, who's Adam Smith? Who knows? I don't think so, no. Who's Adam Smith? Okay. So he's called the father of modern economics. Okay. So he wrote this book, I think it's 17th century, called The Wealth of the Nations, in which he's proposed this idea, this theory that the best way to organize your economy, it's knowledge, right? He's speaking about economics, saying the best way to organize your economy is to leave markets free. Governments shouldn't do unnecessary interference in free markets. let the market decide the equilibrium based on its own. This is a theory. I don't have time to explain. Okay, so again, there's a long historical context. I'll just say it very, very briefly that this theory was given, this theory became dominant in the Western civilization, and the entire colonialism was based on this theory. Okay. So what happens is that in 19th century, so around 1877, I'm saying it very quickly, is that there is a famine in Bengal, one of the regions in India. India is in control of the British Empire, directly under the British Queen. There's a governor general there called Lytton. He's running the government there. He gets news from the other functionaries of government from down that there's a famine in Bengal, going to have shortage of food in 1 month, people are going to die. No jokes about it. That's how it is, right? If you don't regulate food supply when there's a famine, you expect a disaster. So he comes and he says that, look, Adam Smith has told us in economics that markets have to be free. If you interfere in the functioning of the free markets, and if I want to control prices, for example, or if I want to ban exports, because at that time other parts of India had plenty food, a lot of food. But this patch, Bengal, the eastern side of India, was going through a famine. The western part of India, Punjab, and it had a lot of food being produced. So it just takes common sense to say that exports are banned, prices are regulated, send all the food there, finished. He said, no, Adam Smith has told us that in economics you don't mess with the forces of the free market. Why? Otherwise the entire economy would collapse. I mean, it's a theory. I mean, I'm just saying it in very simple words. So he says that I can't go against knowledge, economics. Adam Smith, can I go against Adam Smith? So he refuses. The result was that, okay, in those 3 years when the famine was at its peak, 200,000 tons of food was exported from India and 2 million people died. How many? 2 million people died because of a disastrous social science theory. It's very heavy. I'll show you a photo, like hold your hearts. It's not easy to see these pictures. Okay, so this is a real picture from that time. And this is recent history. It's not 1,000 years old. So basically 2 million people die because someone came up with this disastrous social science theory telling that whatever happens, the markets have to be free. Uncontrolled capitalism, uncontrolled greed. So those people who exported the food to England, other parts, they made money, right? Even if we have, it's probably only the Islamic Republic that has a political Islamic system there, and they're trying to build the other systems. But can we see that? We need to understand that, and eventually I need to define my relationship between these two and where can I make my contribution. I thank you all for your time and listening patiently for continuous 1.5 hours. Speaking is easy because you enjoy speaking. Listening is always harder. So thank you all for your time, for the audience that's present here, the audience that was listening to me online. It's Azan time. We won't have, unfortunately, time for question and answers. But inshallah, there's khair in it. We'll end with a loud salawat.